Good morning. Tehillim, Psalm 73, 1, a psalm of Asaph. Truly God is good to Israel, to such as are of a clean heart. But as for me, my feet were almost gone, my steps had well nigh slipped. For I was envious of the arrogant when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no pangs at their death. Their body is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, nor are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride is their necklace, violence covers them like a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish. They deride and wickedly speak oppression. They speak loftily. They set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue struts through the earth. They speak Lashon Hara, and worse, probably. There's a lot of really deep wisdom in all of the Torah, but there's a lot in Psalms and in Proverbs, in Tehillim and Mishle. I don't really know what much of any of it is, other than not to be arrogant and to have Irat Shemaim, to be terrified and tremble. Like I mentioned the other day, you know, most of Tehillim is Tehillim is written by David HaMelech, King David, but that one was not. Obviously, pretty clearly it says it right in the first verse. Or at least that's what it says anyway. There's a story about David. I think about when I feel naked, not physically naked, but without anything to do, or at least in that moment, in that second. When I'm not actively, consciously, with intent, running to fulfill His will. David was going to dip in a mikveh to cleanse himself, and he had removed his you know, his garments, but specifically as far as observance, he removed his. I don't think they wore tallit regularly, but they wore and still do wear tzitzit, any four-cornered garment, which is a mitzvah from the Torah. And I had to take all that off. And other than the act that he was doing, to cleanse himself, which is a mitzvah in itself, kind of, or it is, but he didn't have anything like physically on his body. And he said, since he wasn't wearing tzitzit anymore, he felt naked of mitzvot. But then he checked himself, and he remembered he still had one. He had his Brit Milah. The goyim, unless they're actively engaged in some act of fulfilling his will, whether it's saying a blessing over something that they benefit from, like food or water, or drink, or like this coffee that I'm drinking, or actively learning Torah, or trying to help people do teshuvah. We're always naked. Doesn't matter what your parents said, what medical procedure a goy has done. It's definitely not the same at all. So when I realized that, at least for the last few months, I've become like a glaring reality most of the time, that I'm not actively trying to do some act of his will. I feel naked like David, but even more so because I don't have a Brit Milah. I feel wholly naked. So I have to look for some way that I can can fill that void and feed my soul what it needs. Otherwise, if I don't, my body will take over and it will fill that hole with something that is not healthy at all. It will feed the hole with desires of lies. It's kind of interesting lately. Lately, I felt like I mean, I've definitely been not eating the best. I mean, I've been eating better than I did most of the winter, as far as like quality of food. But I've definitely added unhealthy things on top of it. And most of the time, I acknowledge to myself when I eat, you know, junk, not even really good, you know, flavorful, healthy food, just to a lesser degree. I acknowledge to myself that, you know, that the sensation that I get is not, it's not true. It's a lie. It's very, very temporary. You get like a few moments of pleasure, and then it's just whoosh, gone like vapor. And all that you're left with is a fat on your back, or zits on your face, or a stomach ache and indigestion. Excuse me. And I get the same kind of, or I've thought the same kind of thing about how my body feels occasionally. Like most of the time, there's like some kind of pain or discomfort somewhere in my body. And occasionally there'll be like a break where I'll notice that I don't really have any pain that I can sense, and I feel good physically. And I can't help but think, you know, liar. I mean, thank you for the break from the suffering. Everyone needs a break, you know, to catch their breath and to have some contrast and to not not go down the drain. And without contrast, the person has no understanding of any value anything, whatever it is. Like if everything was gray, like even, you know, even still if there was contrast in light, but there was no color, it would take away a huge value that people perceived in the world. And if the contrast was further shrink down to just like very subtle shades of some monochromatic color, or you know, range of shade in tone, you know, the world would become far less, you know, real than people, and beautiful than people perceive it as. Or like if it was, you know, you can apply the same thing to everything, senses and like touch and sound, and you know, as in addition to sight. Like if everything was just some kind of weird varying level of pitch or white noise, or rather than dogs barking and chainsaws and birds singing and crickets and frogs at night and the whispering of wind. As wonderful and amazing and beautiful as this place is, it's not real. Not really real. A person a person can make it more real, or at least have some connection to the truth, rather than being a complete lie. Just a minute. Okay. The world of lies. I mean, there are some ways this world is real. That our actions have consequences that echo through eternity, or at least as close to that as this creation, what we see and we don't, can get. There's really nothing that echoes throughout eternity other than God. And if he chooses to, his words. It's all up to him. But even then, I'm not sure if can only be from Bereshit on. There's always a beginning for creation. But the way that this world is real is what, it's definitely not how most people perceive what is real. I think what they touch and what they feel and what they see and what they hear is real, and that's certainly not the case. A person's acts are real. I think I saw my first rabbit for the year. Still haven't seen one inside the yard yet, though. And a coyote. At least I think that's what that is, but it could be really, yeah, it's a coyote. But our acts, just like our words, shake the heavens and walk the earth. Like it says in Psalm 73, 73:9. And we can either cause chaos, and God forbid, cause a damage not only to ourselves but to everything else. Everything in creation, of what we see and what we don't, down here and up there. But obviously, anyone that understands, people can't damage God. but we can certainly screw up his creation. Or we can make it just like he intended. By doing real good. There is a way to make this world, or not this world, but what we see here. Or I guess this space. I don't know. There's not really a good way to put it into words. There's a way to make the lower world eventually into the truth. If we work hard enough on ourselves. We stop blaming other people. We take a responsibility for what we've done. And then do our best to learn, take the truth into our hearts, and make his will our own will. And stop being arrogant and proud, disgusting people. Then we will merit the redemption. And then this world will cease to become the world of lies. Or cease to be the world of lies. At least as severely as it is right now. And it will be transformed into as close to the truth as the physical world can get. But who knows how far off that point is, and whether or not any of us will merit to stand there once it's built. Got to do more. Got to push yourself. You got to break the rock that is your heart. And never stop learning Torah at all, but specifically never stop learning Divrei Musar, words of, of course it's instruction, but it's words of rebuke and refinement, strong instruction that reveals to a person their flaws and shows them a path to shows them the golden middle path that we're all supposed to walk. Continuing on, Psalm 73:10. Therefore his people return here, and abundant waters are drained out by them. And they say, how does God know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the wicked, always at ease. They increase in riches. Surely I have cleansed my heart in vain and washed my hands in innocency. For all the day I have been stricken and chastised every morning. If I had said, I will speak thus, behold, I should have offended against the generation of thy children. So I pondered how I might understand this, but it was too worrisome for me until I entered the sanctuary of God. And then I understood their end. Surely thou dost set them in slippery places. Thou dost cast them down into destruction. How are they brought into desolation in a moment? They are utterly consumed with terrors. As a dream when one awakes, so, O Lord, on awakening, thou shalt despise their image. When my heart was embittered, and I was pricked in my reins, then I was foolish and ignorant. I was like a beast before thee. But I am continually with thee. Thou holdest my right hand. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel, and afterwards receive me to honorable state. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon the earth that I desire besides thee. My flesh and my heart failed, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. For lo, they that are far from thee shall perish. Thou hast destroyed all who go astray from thee. But as for me, the nearness of God is my good. I have made the Lord my refuge, that I may relate all thy works. I was trying to find a source for something that Rabbi Jerome Rubin said a few days ago, but I couldn't find it. it's really challenging to find certain things that aren't specific. I mean, sometimes it's hard enough just to find a verse in the Tanakh and Torah. But it's really hard to find certain commentary or or generally less common things that aren't translated into English too often. Well, specifically things the Goyim shouldn't read, but it was I can't remember if it was David or Moshe. There's one when a verse in Shemot in Exodus where Moshe asked to see God's glory. And I'm not sure if that's the verse, but there's a commentary on one of the verses in the Torah where one of the sages say, for some reason I want to say it's from David in Psalms when he was being chased and harassed and was pleading for God for to bring his judgment. But I'm not sure. I can't find a source for it other than what I heard Rabbi Aaron Rubin say. Hopefully I can convey this accurately. God, please have mercy on me if I don't. But he whoever said the verse was begging for asking to see God's glory. And there's a commentary from one of the sages that say, what is this glory that, may God forgive me, that this person, one of the fathers in the Torah said, is asking to see, what is this glory? And the sage says that it's God's glory is when he destroys the wicked people. That's the only time that his name can really ever be glorified. Because as long as there are people in this world that go against him, when there is no judgment, and when there's injustice, and there's still a balance to be paid, God cannot be held in his glory. There's also specific names used for God in the Torah. I don't know what all of them are. But there's a reason for every use of every letter, not just every word in the Torah. And God, God forbid they're actually talking about more than one God. That's not what it is. It's all the same thing. Just like there's, the opposite of that. There's more than one word that the Torah uses for the Satan. The angel of death, evil, and various other names. But it's still all the same thing. Just an evil, the other side of holiness. But they're all used to describe different ways that God interacts with creation. Whether with mercy and kindness, or giving an abundance and a blessing to a person or peoples, or bringing the judgment. And restoring balance to the world. Like when he wiped out all the wicked people on the entire face of the earth, leaving only one family. Then his name was glorified. There were no Reshaim to speak against him. And what people have to understand is it's not because God is arrogant. That's just stupid. Or because he's angry. God forbid. I mean, when the Torah uses words like, they angered God, it's just words that we can understand. The reality is actions have consequences, and if we don't perceive that as God's anger, we will become too haughty. And treat our relationship with casualness. Like he's just your bro. People's friends, really, most of them don't really care about them at all. So you really don't want God to be your bro. one way to tell all the heretics and atheists and wicked people that go against the Torah are arrogant and stupid and foolish and doomed to destruction unless they do teshuvah. As a, God is infinitely more humble than people could ever be. There are millions of people that outright go against him, like openly, get others to do the same. And there are billions of people, billions and billions, that go against his laws. Mainly through ignorance and succumbing to their yetzer hara and their own desires. And not only does he not destroy all the people that break his, the billions of people that break his laws. He doesn't even destroy the wicked people that outright deserve, according to the rules of the Torah, the laws of the Torah, of his creation, outright deserve to be just wiped out off the face of the earth with no mercy. But God is infinitely merciful. And so he waits for people to do teshuvah until there's just no more time left. When he has to wipe them all off the face of the earth before they totally destroy everything. But he waits till the very last moment. I mean, he doesn't pray. I don't think he does, but not. If he does, it's definitely not how we pray, because there's only one God. God definitely does not have a God. God forbid. I don't know if he can really hope, but he knows what's going to happen anyway. But it's just words that people can kind of understand. Apple's still sitting here on the counter. And I thought this morning is a good day for oatmeal. So with a great deal of his help, if it is his will, I will do my best to make a proper blessing on a piece of fruit in my own words. And try not to be a thief. And do my best not to make a new religion. Just a moment. I'll get some coffee. what I miss. I'm sure it's quite a lot. More than I would ever know, at least while I'm here. Baruch Hashem. For giving me a chance to do teshuvah. For his infinite mercy, his patience, his kindness. For making this world and giving us a chance to earn our bread. For making the Satan. So that whatever our acts merit, the payment of our acts. So that they are they're not as much of a gift as if they were just given for free, like a lot of heretics and idol worshippers think is the case. You gotta see, man. I mean, there's always enough time until there's not. If a person treats it casually, and they don't fight with every ounce of their being, to take the truth into their heart, and constantly, forever, as long as the person breathes air and has the merit to wake up another day, always fight with every fiber and every ounce of strength that we are blessed to receive. Constantly to overpower our Yetzer Hara. No one's going to make it. No one who doesn't do that. Especially not me. I mean, that's fear of the judgment is just the bare minimum that a person needs to have. It's really, It's really pretty low. I mean, if that's all you got, that's all you got. You definitely don't want to just be like, well, I made it there. Thank God. Got my foot in the door. You'll be in your little cardboard box up in Shemayim, about 1,000,000 light years from his presence. But you're still up there. You made it. In your home in your homeless Olam Haba. With a cardboard sign that says, "Can you spare any mitzvot?" I'm sorry, buddy. Time for that was down here. You had your chance. And you screwed it up. You let it slip away. You got distracted by the Satan. People have no concept of the reward for even the simplest thing, like not being a thief, by acknowledging that the food that we eat isn't ours. It's God's food. Until we say a blessing on it and thank Him for it, acknowledging that it's His, and then it becomes ours through that simple act. The transfer of ownership occurs when we cease to become thieves, as well as ungrateful degenerates. And then we become how we should be. We get closer to Him. And because it is his law of how things work, everything has an opposite, a contrast, an inverse. Just like the reward for saying a blessing or for anyone, but even more so any of the mitzvot that a Jew can do. You have no concept of how the value, and not just in if they merit to see Gan Eden, but even in this world, the good that they create with one simple act. Just like it says in Psalms, the words of the wicked, their mouths Their mouths cause chaos in the heavens, and their tongues walk the earth or strut the earth, destroying everything. So the opposite of, for the righteous people, or people that are doing whatever they can to try to fulfill His will. When they speak words of Torah or try to help people do teshuvah, they fix all the destruction that they made in this world and in the upper worlds. As well as if they merit it with a great deal of His help and infinite mercy to see the world to come that they're building, as long as they don't screw it up before it's over. But that also is a very, very low level that no one should ever be content with fulfilling His will, and for those reasons alone. And we certainly shouldn't count on the fact that that's going to occur. And always be fearful of losing it all. Well, the thing to set our sights on as a motivation and a reason is solely because He is God. He is Hashem, and He said, and He is good, and He is wise, and He is merciful, and He will know far better than we ever could, could, forever. So we should strive to have not just fear of the judgment, but fear of also, in addition to, fear of severing our connection that we've made with Him, however small that may be. Once you see it, it's nothing that you ever want to lose. But the Satan is very, very strong. As strong as he needs to be for each person in their own level. And no more. And no less. Each one of us, no matter who we are, even the goyim, it's in our mouths and in our hearts to do it. There's no person that doesn't have the strength to follow the Torah that we're commanded to, whatever that is for each person. B'nai Israel or B'nai Noach. Jew or Goy. And up to us to dig deep. And when we can't, to beg for help. Because it's all right there for us to take. He's waiting to give us everything that is good for us. And even things that we will find good as they occur. If we just see it and do it and ask for the help. And realize that we are nothing but dust and ash. Through some amazing miracle and of God's wisdom and infinite mercy and kindness, we've been turned into these animated pieces of meat who have been given the most amazing opportunity as long as we don't screw it up. Just like one person shouldn't settle for the lowest level of fear of the judgment. They shouldn't settle for the lowest level of why they perform God's will. You know, person should strive to have fear of severing their connection that they've made, and also they should do what the Torah says, fulfill His will, not like it says in Pirkei Avot. You know, person should serve their master, not for the sake of reward. They should serve as if there is no reward, even though there is. But it still shouldn't be a person's, primary focus. Person should do what the Torah says, because He is God. And because they want to make His will their will. Because they finally see that is the only way to have really real good. Anything else is just some shade of a lie. Some shade of arrogance, of pride, of greed, however small. Like I said before, a person shouldn't set their sights to an unachievable goal. And a person always has to do a self accounting. both for the good and the bad in their own acts and their thoughts, and be realistic and acknowledge when they're doing things that are counterproductive. Like a person has to start at the fountain, the base. You can't just hop to the top of the mountain and say you made it. That might work in real life. You could use a helicopter or something like that. But as far as observing the Torah and our purpose of refining ourselves, it's one step at a time, as much as we can manage. And never stop moving up. Never be content with where we're at. But also realize when we're running too fast and aren't looking where we're going. So we don't end up either falling off the cliff or running off his path without realizing it. God forbid. And find yourself in a university speaking heresy or at a church, God forbid, or anywhere else that is not his path. If you ever finally wake up and realize, that you've gone that far off the derrick. Usually the Satan isn't that clear cut, though. Usually it's a lot more subtle. Or at least slow and subtle. Or it takes a lifetime to slowly shift a person that far. Or sometimes even generations. Or they start out with a teacher, then turn him into God. Or what they worship him as God. God forbid. Oh, Baruch Hashem, thank you. I remember the other thing I needed to do Teshuvah for was, or at least clarify what I said about Chabad the other day. It's hopefully I didn't speak Lashon Hara too bad, but to clarify, Chabad does a lot of good. They are one of the only organizations that spread the Torah pretty much in every corner of the world. And they're a vast resource for learning online. But that doesn't change some of the things that get published on their website or done in their name that aren't the truth, that aren't the Torah, that distort the Torah and lead people to sin. about a month ago or so, I was reading some article and I was looking for something. I forget what it was, something about immodesty. And I started reading this article and I thought, this was on Chabad, and it seemed like it was right where it should be, in line with, as far as what I know of the Torah and the hashkafa, the ideology. And then, wow, I just couldn't believe it. I got to the bottom of the article, and it was written by Manis Friedman, and I thought, how? I mean, maybe it was an old article, or maybe it was just just a portion of the truth that was left in him, that was able to slip out, or or a cloak of the truth that the Satan uses to hide his lies in, that he uses, gets other people to speak in and lead people astray. There's no way for a lie to be accepted. It serves no utility if it doesn't have some kind of truth buried in there, because everyone will immediately acknowledge that it's a lie and they will disregard it. So it has to have some kind of truth. I mean, even the Goyim acknowledge that. Whether they acknowledge the creator of the worlds or not. The reason why I mention this is for one, to make sure that I don't speak Lashon Hara, or at least as much as, and to clarify anything that was unclear before, and to acknowledge there are Chabadniks that are that stick to the truth and do a lot of good. But it's also to warn people that to always be aware of the pitfalls, especially if you fish, if you're fishing around for the truth, or if you're looking for something before you get a baseline hashkafa of the Torah, how to think in lines with the Torah, which is probably going to take, it's going to take a while. A combination of time and learning and listening and reinforcing what you learn until you kind of brainwash yourself to the truth and scrub out as much of the tumah, as much of the filth that gets rooted in there, until you can at least identify the Yetzer Hara that pops up thoughts in your head. other than doing what I did, but just watch as many lectures as I could manage to fight to watch over and over again. As I started getting more serious about Teshuvah and learning, the best place is to start with Rabbi Aaron Rubin's Jewish Hashkafa lecture series. And start with number one. And if a person acknowledges and does their best to put it into practice, both with their thoughts and their acts, like with understanding the creation, with understanding the thinking of the Torah, with increasing their emunah, their bitachon, their faith and their trust, and constantly learning as much musar, strong musar, as they can every single day, and keep breaking yourself down until your midot are at least less rough and disgusting as they were when you started. Then a person can have at least a better chance of not falling victim to getting sucked into heresy. And specifically stay away from almost every teacher that you see out there, sadly. Once you find one that speaks the truth, don't keep fishing around, because all that is the Satan trying to drag you back into a hole somewhere. You listen to what you like rather than what you need to hear. Someone that makes you feel comfortable rather than jars you awake and turns the mirror on you and shows your flaws to you. And it's a person's obligation to do their best to, when it's not a face-to-face instruction, to listen to what they hear, and whatever it is, as long as it isn't like laws that only apply to, like if you're a Jew, laws for the goyim only, or vice versa. If you're a goy, laws that only applies to the Jews. Aside from that, and like laws for women and men or something like that, in certain specific instances. Other than that, to listen to the Musar in a lecture and acknowledge that, like, he's talking directly to you and giving you a rebuke, like, because that's literally what he's doing. God rearranges the world for whatever you hear, whatever Torah you hear, specifically because you need to hear it, to hear the truth, in order to have any chance of making it, and to take it into your heart and burn it into your soul. So you always are, it's in the front of your mind that I'm an angry, jealous, greedy, disgusting, prideful, ungrateful person. And the moment the second that I stop learning Musar every single day and stop putting it into practice is the exact moment where I veer off the path and slowly but surely become a heretic, or whatever a person wants to call it, is doomed to destruction, at the very least, in the next world, if not in this world as well. There are some people with some some wicked people with some merits that so they have to get paid for their merits, and because the sins that they've committed are so great, they have to be destroyed, and they have no world to come, no Olam Haba, no Gan Eden. So their soul has to be just totally tortured and ripped to shreds and destroyed, so it can be cleansed and returned back to where it came from. So the only way to pay, and God is fair and just, so he has to pay them for their mitzvot that they did, even if it takes 100 lifetimes. And since they don't have a Gan Eden, since they don't have an Olam Haba, a world to come, that means they get all their reward in this world. I'm not sure what the verse is, but it's a verse in the Torah. Very clear. God says he pays cash, specifically in it's in the holy language, it's kesef, silver. God pays silver to his haters to their face, so he never has to see them again. It's absolutely nothing to do with them. So he gives them their reward here. And then once they've been paid, once their balance has been given to them, and justice has been meted out as far as the good that they're owed, then the Satan comes and plucks them from this world, or sometimes rips them from this world. And then they get most likely taken to Kaf HaKela, just so they can be beaten and tortured and thrashed for all their sins. And only then, after they've gone through that torture by destructive angels whose only function is to torture people, and their sole programming, the like the code that they've been instilled with from God as he created them. Their sole motivation is a focus and a magnet to the stench of sins, and then to torture and cause as much pain and suffering to whatever soul has that stink on them. And then after they've they've finished their purpose. Then the soul gets sent to the seventh level of Gehinnom, where it never comes out. For a near eternity of torture. A person should always be fearful of reward in this world. Most especially if they don't use it for what God says is good. And that they aren't always fearful of misusing anything. Every penny. The more pennies a person has, the more they should make sure they use it wisely. And invest in the only retirement plan that is really worth anything. Saving people from themselves and spreading more of his Torah. I gotta get going. If I'm allowed another moment, I need to try to make something to eat. And fulfill other worldly obligations. It's never enough. But if we don't try, it's most certainly not going to be enough at all. Hopefully God can grant us all the wisdom and the strength to know what's right and not use our own twisted logic to distort his Torah. And with a great deal of his help, complete our teshuvah. Refine our midot. Run from evil. Do good. Attain the wisdom to know the difference, Bezrat Hashem. Overpower our Yetzer Hara. And help do whatever we can to save his kids and everyone else. And help them to do the same with a great deal of his help. As always, because without that, there is nothing at all other than him. And Od Milvado.